This is the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.
Wilmer behind the back, spinorama, he scores! What a goal by Jeremy Wilmer!
Discussion.
Into the net with a shot, he scores! Oh, and Mike goes 4-2, Western Michigan.
Opinion.
Back into the near circle, fires, he scores! Hysteria here in Hockey Valley as Penn State upsets number 2 Minnesota.
Special guests and your listener questions.
The icing is waved and it's over! Western Michigan has won it. The Broncos are the Frozen Four champions of 2025.
Taking you through the world of college hockey, here are your hosts, Adam Roden and Mike McMahon.
Hello, here we go. We are in February. Adam, Mike is here, and this is getting interestinger and interestinger. As I was just working on the probability matrix, so you know it's getting serious.
Yep. I was going to say that I would assume has to be updated for NPI purposes. Yeah.
Well, the problem, I mean, it's not a problem really, but I mean, calculating the NPI takes about 6 times as long as calculating the pairwise. So like when it's just being done once, you're talking about like 0.3 seconds instead of 0.05 seconds. And it's like, whatever, it's less than a second. When you multiply that by 20,000, which is what the simulation does. The pairwise one took 25 minutes, and this took about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So, I mean, whatever, it's all good. We'll figure it out. But that's the difference at the moment. So, but it's getting serious, and getting serious for a lot of teams here too. We're going to start with our team of the week, Miami. Another sweep, this time on the road against St. Cloud. I mean, they play Western Michigan coming up. But, beginning of the year, they were like, oh, cute story. 3 wins last year, and they're beating teams that aren't that great, And it's okay because they're learning and they're getting confidence, and this is going to be a building year for next year. But turn around, and now they're beating good teams. They go out there and sweep, and, they're 19th in the MPI. Now, I mean, they're playing Western. That's another class altogether. But, I mean, it's getting kind of crazy at this point.
Yeah. I remember I was one of the ones that said that earlier in the year. They started the year with Ferris State, RPI, Lindenwood. Some of those were on the road, but still, like, look at where those teams are now. And, we had both said, well, let's see what happens when they get into league play. They're 500 in the league. After winning 4 in a row, sweeping the last 2 weekends, they're back to 500 in the NCHC. And the schedule gets extremely difficult over the next couple of weeks. They've got Western, North Dakota, and then Duluth before wrapping up the regular season on the road at Omaha. But they've positioned themselves in a pretty good spot, like especially if they can win some of these games, these 6 games coming up against teams that are all ahead of them in the NPI. I mean, you could be talking about a top 15 team by the time they go into that Omaha series with just, they go 4-2 or even 3-3, they might be pretty close to top 15.
Well, yeah, you knew that they were stepping up in recruiting with Anthony Noreen and the players he brought in. And so, that was good. But to go from the beginning of the year to now has to be more than just the recruiting. That has to be good coaching on top of it. You know what I mean? Like that coaching staff, what they've done with what they brought in. I mean, you can't just bring the guys in, you got to work with them. And, you look at the freshman class that they have, and Coach Adelich is their second leading scorer, and they don't have a ton of like high scores, but they have a lot of guys who can contribute. David Deputy is another freshman with 11 goals. He actually leads the team in goals. And of course, Ilya Morozov, who's, you look at it, he's like 11th on the team in scoring with just 14 points, but he's been a factor, and he plays like 20 minutes a night. Yeah, you got to give him. And Mateo Giampo, the transfer from Canisius, who's the leading scorer, was actually hurt for a couple weeks, and now he came back. And then last but not least, Mateo Drobak, the goaltender, has played just about every minute of every game. 913 save percentage. So put it all together, and it's not a cute story anymore.
No, and one of the things that's been impressive about the fact, just with the transfers, like whether it's Giampa or Max Helgeson, you look at where they did last year and where they were. Like Jampa was almost a point per game player at Canisius, but I think we all figured, well, he's going to go to the NCHC. That's he's not going to carry that same point per game number. Helgeson, same thing, coming from Anchorage to the NCHC. Well, they have. Both of them have, and in some cases, I mean, Jampa's actually slightly better in terms of a point per game pace from where he was a year ago. That, I think, speaks to what you were just saying, a staff that has been able to integrate them well, but also develop their game, make them better players, because that's a step up in terms of league competition, and they've both stepped up their play.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, kudos to Miami. We'll keep an eye on them this weekend, obviously, against Western Michigan. We talked to their coach, Anthony Noreen, a few weeks ago, so he's not here right now. This week, we have Nate Leaman on from Providence, who they were our team of the week a couple weeks ago, so we're just catching up. Some of the other news from this past week, you had the outdoor game at Beaver Stadium at Penn State. Penn State lost in overtime, but it was a great game. They had lost the night before, too, but they're still, them and Michigan State, two of the top 5 teams in the country, so it didn't really hurt them very much. The outdoor games have, there's been enough of them now between the NHL and college hockey where, you're not as wowed, I guess, anymore, but they're still pretty cool.
Well, especially that one. I mean, it was the first one at Beaver Stadium. It's a newer program, right? So they had never kind of been through that before. They had 75,000 people watching a college hockey game. There's not many other events. I mean, there's no other singular event this year that's going to get that many eyeballs on one college hockey game. So,
yeah,
they're not for me. I'm growing tired of them, but we've had them now for 20 years. But it's not for me. Like, it's to bring 75,000.
That's exactly what I wrote. I think it might have been a couple of years ago at this point. I said the exact same thing. Like, look, we may be, we've seen a bunch of, but for these people in it, like, they probably never did this before. So,
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give them their fun and don't be a crab about it,
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, too. And like I said, there's not many other events that will get that many people into a building to watch one college hockey game. So,
yeah, absolutely. And it's cool visuals. The photographs always look cool. They're out there. So I mean, I always think ice hockey is picturesque in the first place, so that just adds to it. But we're going to talk more about this later when we kind of react to what Nate Leaman has to say, and also Brendan Whittet, the outgoing Brown coach. We'll get to that in a second too. But what Gavin McKenna said, I mean, I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but I mean, it's pertinent because he came from Major Junior. And, good. He had a good weekend, by the way, so we'll get off his case for a bit. But, he's saying, like, when he goes there, I mean, there's no way he would ever have that kind of experience playing a Major Junior. And that is not outdoor games per se, but the beauty of, like, why did 75,000 people show up? And, like, when you dive into it, it's because it's Penn State.
Yes.
Because the people in the state and the students have a connection, even if they never even saw a hockey game before, to going to the game and supporting the school and it being part of that and the band and the whole 9 yards. I mean, you saw the Barstool guys going nuts during the broadcast. Another story altogether as they interlope into the conversation. But, I mean, that's college hockey, right? And that's always the fear of what we might lose. With all the changes that have been going on. But for the Big Ten schools, it still is,
Penn State's one of those schools where it's kind of like SEC football schools where even people that didn't go there but are just from there, like, that's their team. Like, there's a lot of people that didn't go to the University of Alabama that, the University of Alabama football team is their team. The same thing kind of exists with those Big Ten schools. It's a different culture. Yeah,
but you probably had alums, coming from all over the place, probably say, hey, this is going to be a destination event. I'm sure Penn State alums are all over the place, just like a lot of other schools. I went to a college which has 6,000 students, okay, not like the 40,000 that Penn State has, but, like, still, we played Division III football, and, like, every couple of years in the last 5 years or so, 7 years now, they've been playing what's called the biggest little football game in the nation at, like, Yankee Stadium and Giants Stadium.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to a football game, like, on their campus in, like, decades, but, like, we will all go to that, right? Because they're playing it, at Yankee Stadium against Cortland State, and which is, again, if you're from the school, that, like, to you, not to anybody else, right? To you don't give a rat's ass. But to me and the alums, like, that is the biggest event of the year when we were in school, just on campus. So now we'll make that an event, right? So it's the same kind of thing. And like, I'm not going to do this for, if I grew up in Ithaca and they had a minor league team, called the Ithaca Bombers, who played, minor league sport, it would not be the same thing. It's because it's your school, right? And that's the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, 100%.
And that's always been my fear. Like, all these changes, you go, and now you're going to play. What are you turning it into minor league sports? Like, it won't be the same if that's the case. So anyway, well, I'll actually get to that more later when we talk about the other stuff. But on to what else as far as on the ice news. I mean, the Beanpot. Also, speaking of traditions, I think 73rd now. I mean, obviously they took the year off because of the COVID. But BU-BC back in the final. I guess not a shock, right? I mean, that's historically been the thing, although, Northeastern has really been tremendous the last, 6 or 7 years, winning it 4 times, I believe.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
so, I mean, and they played a great game against BU, but BU comes out of it in the shootout.
Do we want to talk about how much I think it's done?
Oh, it's horrible.
Okay, good. And I wouldn't even say, I mean, it's horrible for the Beanpot. It's horrible just in general. I just don't understand what the problem with ties are.
No,
we had ties, even at the NHL level, we had ties forever. Like, we don't need to do this.
I mean, in this case, obviously, you need a winner to advance, right? So, I mean, that's
you can just do the way you used to do. Just play.
I know. I mean,
play somebody scores.
There have been some epic Beanpot overtime games, and it's a crying shame that it's not allowed anymore. It's not the first time. We've talked about it every other year. This happens too, right?
Yeah, and wasn't there like a crossover where at one point they were playing the 20-minute overtime, but after 5 minutes it counted as a tie?
Yeah, but they made them stop doing that. I don't know.
What's wrong with that? That seems like it's simple enough.
I don't know. Yeah, and it's silly, by the way, that we have to. You need a winner, and so we have to watch a shootout and with a lot on the line. Because normally during the season, I mean, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. It doesn't mean anything in the national picture. I don't know. I guess it depends how you look at it. I mean, if you're a Beanpot fan, that means a lot. And to have it decided that way, whatever. But, BU advances. I mean, again, I thought Northeastern played a great game. And Jay Pandolfo, the BU coach after the game, acknowledged the fact that it's only a tie as far as the NCAA is concerned, and they didn't move the needle at all as far as the MPI. I mean, they're stuck at 24. But he said it was a huge win for his team, just for morale, and I can see that. Ryder Ritchie scoring the goal in overtime, having it nullified because there was a penalty. And same kind of play, which Scott Sandlin was upset about the previous week at Denver, by the way. And he was none too pleased with the officiating this past weekend in Denver here. Got to see him on Friday. He was already upset about one thing, and then Saturday was another thing. It was a very similar kind of play that they did not call, and then and Denver won. So in this case, they made the call, but BU wins in the shootout anyway. But I felt bad because Lawton Zaker, gets hurt. Cole Eiserman barrels into him, and then I'm not sure he was 100% there in the shootout.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, obviously he stayed in the game. He was hurt earlier in the year too. You remember he missed some games, but overall, I mean, he was fantastic. Again, he made 36 saves in that game. BU played really well in that game. They put up almost 40 shots on goal. He's been outstanding all year. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure he was completely 100% over the course of the shootout because he was banged up at the end there. But man, he just continues to just do his thing. I mean, he's been the man for Northeastern all year.
Yeah. Cole Hudson had 13 shot attempts during regulation. 6 went on net. So I don't know if that's a good ratio, but he had 6 shots on goal, and then he had the shootout game winner. So, but just to prove your point there, I mean, XG for that game, Northeastern had 2 goals. Their XG was 2.1. BU had 2 goals. Their XG was 4. So, that just shows you right there. But I did think Northeastern played well. Regardless. So, Harvard did not play that well. Although, I mean, actually, they looked pretty good. They just, this seems to happen to them all the time. I mean, so you wonder if it just can't be a coincidence anymore. Like, they just come out and just sloppy. I mean, they were exciting. They were getting offensive chances, but sloppy defensively, and all of a sudden they're down 3-0.
Yep.
So, it's happened before many times with them in the Beanpot.
It has.
Even in the NCAAs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I give BC some credit. They've been playing well, with the exception of that weekend with Providence a couple of weeks ago, where they got swept. But they played fine in those games. They were 2 1-goal games. One of them was in overtime. But yeah, Harvard's been a tough team to figure out because they started the year really well, right? Like at the beginning of the year, they had some big wins. Even earlier in November, they were picking up some league wins, and then they've been better here recently as well. But they had that stretch in early January through December, end of November as well, where it's like I think they went 2-6 or 2-7. Now they're like, going into last night, they were 5-1 in their last 6. So it's talk about a streaky team. Like I just don't know who they are. I don't know which version of Harvard is the actual version of Harvard.
I don't know either. I will say Boston College, I mean, they're up to 12 now in the MPI, and things are coming together for them. I mean, James Higgins looks fantastic. I thought again, last year we talked about how, his numbers, not just the numbers, but he didn't look necessarily like a number 1 overall pick, and he was playing with Perreault and Leonard, and those guys certainly made him look really good. And then he dropped in the draft to 7, comes back this year, trying to get adjusted now. Perreault and Leonard are gone. He's got completely new line mates. But now, like as the season's gone on, he's become the man. And so I give him a ton of credit. 14 goals now. Of course, Dean Letourneau keeps going. He's got 15. And then Oscar Hemming has added a dimension now. I called it his coming out party, because this is, his 5th game since coming mid-season. And he looked great, him and Higgins together.
He did, and I agree with you. Higgins has had a great year, and he's really stepped up his game, particularly since the middle of the year. He had that hat trick against Notre Dame. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend, and then he's got a couple of big goals since then as well. And obviously, the 2 last night in the Beanpot. And Letourneau, Letourneau's a great story. People were ready to cut bait on that guy, like especially around here because he was a Bruins draft pick, and people were just freaking out that he had 3. I'm like, he barely played last year. He was in the 4th line. He probably should have been in the USHL anyway. Like everybody relax. And he's not only more than a point per game right now. He's got 15 goals in 24 games. You're talking about a guy that's on pace for close to 20 goals. Probably will even get to 20 if you include playoff games. Oh, yeah. So he's had a great year.
All right, well, a couple of notes here before we get to Nate Leaman, Providence coach. Wisconsin, oh boy, they've lost 6 in a row now. They go to Minnesota and get swept. And Minnesota's had not that great a year. So I don't know what's happening there. Logan Hensler got hurt. That's another thing. But it's kind of fallen apart for Wisconsin. So that's been a bit weird.
Yeah, they were 3rd in the NPI like a month ago.
Yeah.
And now they're 14.
Yeesh.
You get a bad weekend this weekend, they're out of the picture.
I know.
they were a 1 seed a month ago.
Absolutely, I know. And so there's that. UMass with an overtime win against Northeastern and then won on Sunday. They were close to being team of the week, but beat Lowell on Sunday, and they've been coming on strong. But, again, they still have a lot of ground to make up to get an NCAA at-large bid, but they continue to play well. I think Musa had a hat trick on Sunday.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And
he's a pretty good player.
They've won 7 in a row now. A couple overtimes in there, but Musa's up to 13 goals. And as far as the CCHA, we were keeping an eye on St. Thomas since they were our team of the week last week, and they were creeping up. They played Michigan Tech, which was going to be a good test, and they did split. I thought, that was a good weekend. I watched as much of those 2 games as I could. And St. Thomas won on Friday, and then Tech with a, I think they scored 17 seconds after St. Thomas had tied it up in the 3rd period. So a good job by both teams, really. And St. Thomas still hanging in there at, 13 in the MPI. And that's pretty much it for this past weekend for the big stuff. We will get to Nate Leaman here in just a moment when we come back.
Class, today we're talking men's ice hockey. Open your textbooks. Join thousands of other screaming fans for an in-person experience you have to see to believe. It's the NCAA Men's Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas. Attendance is encouraged. Passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/mfrozen4.
How many teams are in the men's Frozen Four?
Please leave.
Before I get into, NIL stuff I'd love to talk to you about. But what about your team right now? I mean, obviously you've been hot. You feel good about it, or is it still like sort of precarious?
Yeah, I've liked this team all season, though. We're just young. We needed to grow up and mature. We have 4 freshmen D. It was just I've been trying to stay patient with the team, but there are a lot of days you're out on the ice in practice and you're just going, man, this is a good team.
Yeah.
But we would get into games and we would play an immature game, with not managing the puck well, taking penalties, getting over emotional. Our only senior was Philip Svedback. And I've never had a team with just one senior before. I think our leadership group, they were growing and maturing. I think almost every one of our players needed to grow. And, I think we've grown. We found our identity now. Philip's injury, I think, helped us bring us together a little bit more. Now I think they're at a place where they know, you almost feel like you don't need to say a lot to them as a coach because they know who they are. They know what they're supposed to do. They know how to go out and execute it. It's more about, now it's more about like just making sure we're poised and we keep our emotions in check and things like that. So,
yeah, I think the one maybe helped. I don't know if it helped you, but as I talk to people all over the country, like everybody's had so much turnover, right? So, I mean, a lot of teams are in the same boat. So, you know what I mean? That first half was just kind of haphazard for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, when we played BU last week, or 2 weekends ago when we played BU, there was only one 4-year player in the game, and that was McLaughlin. And he had played 3 of them at North Dakota.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So basically, someone told me that after the series you just don't remember that stuff. You're just going out and you're playing their players, and the Maine, when we were overtime against Maine, my assistant told me yesterday we started 3 freshmen and a freshman goalie,
right?
And the overtime, and so
is that just going to be the way it is forever now? Is that the new normal?
I don't think so. I think with us, we just got, we just graduated an older class last year. The thing that I do find though is that if guys don't come in and play a lot early in their careers, they transfer.
Yeah,
and so what we lose is we lose that kid or that player that has steadily gotten better, and then all of a sudden they're really good juniors and seniors. Like, would Brandon Tanev have transferred?
Right.
Would Vinny Desharnais have transferred?
Yeah.
2 guys that are in the NHL, and I think Vinny played half the games his freshman year.
To me, I was going to get into this, but since you mentioned it, to me, that's the biggest issue with all of this. You know what I mean? Like all this other money and with all the other stuff going on, the unlimited transfer. I don't know. It's hard to blame kids. I don't think they're intending to be, immoral or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just the way that their mindset is these days. I don't think
it's very much the way their mindset is. I feel like, a couple things. We adjusted. We took the smallest roster I've ever taken. And I think that's been, personally, I've loved it as a coach because guys have been able to grow and develop. And I think that will help with the transfer portal stuff because guys are playing. Right. But the hard thing is I think more and more as coaches, you're the only one that's really talking to these guys about a group.
Right. Right.
Parents, agents, we have, I think, 8 or 9 guys that are drafted. All those people are just talking to the player about them as individuals. And when they leave the rink, it's not even when they leave the rink, when they go to the lobby after the game, what's being thrown at them right away is all individual stuff, well, how come you weren't on the power play here? Or what about this shift? I think it's harder for guys to think about team, and you as the coach, I think, is putting more and more pressure. Not pressure is the right word, but it's you got to be really focused on it, and a lot more individual meetings, a lot more, repeating the same messages a lot,
right?
To try to make sure the guys still have the big picture in mind, and that's us working as a group to accomplish something.
Yeah, I mean, critics could say like, "Oh, you're just being self-serving," and this, but like, I'm sort of outside of it. I genuinely believe it's better for a kid, right, to stick through it. But then they say, "Well, you're just, of course you want them to stay because you." But I mean, I genuinely believe there's a positive to that, and we've lost it. I don't know, they've entirely lost, but I mean, it's unfortunate, I guess, to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's something huge to be said for going to college and things being hard,
right,
and learning how to get through hard, getting yourself like as a human to the next level, whether it's in the classroom or on the ice, because you and I know that life is going to smack you in the face. And if you don't have that ability to kind of persevere, know how to like just put down, get down and grind at times, it's going to be tough to be successful, or that'd be the first time they're learning it.
Yeah, right. They'll learn it eventually, right?
And that's what, like a big part of college has always been about. Like, I always felt like the professors are going to teach you what to know.
Right.
We're going to teach you how to work.
Yeah, right.
Like on in ice hockey or whatever sport or something, like we're going to teach you how to be part of a team. We're going to teach you how to sacrifice. We're going to teach you how to, show up when you're sick or when you're not feeling good. And I just kind of felt the big picture of things like that.
I mean, that's why I love sports. You know what I mean? That's why not just for the fun of it, but I mean, I genuinely believe it's a positive in people's lives. But hey, we're preaching to the converted, I guess. It's funny because Bernie Corbett was telling me it was at the I think the 30th anniversary for BU's '95 team, and Jack Parker said something to Chris Drury about how you wouldn't have be here if these rules.
Yes.
He's a fourth line player as a freshman, right? You probably would have transferred out of BU. So.
Well, I mean, like a lot of players that have played here have made it to the NHL as free agents,
right?
And a lot of those guys, their freshman year wasn't a great year,
right?
You know what I mean? As far as playing time, as far as points, as far as their role on the team. But those are the guys that kept, they knew how to keep getting better, keep getting through it, keep working. And then all of a sudden, again, those junior, senior years. And then as a coach, you're so happy for them.
Right.
You're like Vinny Darnay, Kevin Rooney, like Nola Chari. Like, you're just so happy for them to have the years that they're having because you saw the work that they put in. And you're going like, man, this is what it's about. This is what, this is what it's about, with these guys. And then they take those lessons and they're able to move on and do well with it. But
we can talk about it all day, but we're not changing anything right now. But I've known you a long time. You went from begging Roger Hull for educational aid for Canadians to 6-figure NIL deals for major junior players. I mean, just think about the difference, the gap of those two statements right there. My God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so blessed to have had a chance to work at Union because it taught me.
I mean, talk about taking your lumps, right, and learning.
Yeah, it taught me how to coach. I mean, first of all, like my two mentors, Sean Walsh had passed away. Mark Mazzolini, was only one more year at Harvard, and then he was out. He went to junior hockey. So my two mentors were out. I didn't have a big place to turn.
Right.
And talk to people, and I just kind of had to put my head down and grind.
You were 29 at the time?
Yeah, I was 29.
Yeah.
And first thing I had to do was educate a school on what Division I athletics was, and Kevin had started that process, Kevin Snedden, but, I really had to battle. I probably caught a break with Roger Hall, with a president change there at Union, and then, but ultimately, it's, they didn't want to get to that. They didn't want to do some things. And then, the Providence opportunity come about. And
you were blessed with a good AD there when you got there, my old Ithaca buddy.
But
Mr. Driscoll there.
Yeah.
But are you surprised at how fast we went from, the major junior NCAA debate to, in the course of like 6 months, of course, major junior, then NCAA is the path. I mean, it's amazing to me how fast that mindset has changed already in hockey.
Yeah, and even now with the East Coast League players playing, or what they're calling, what the NCAA is calling a pro and not a pro, like you just have to keep evolving. Like I think we have a good compliance office here, so we're always trying to stay on top of things, but it's crazy. And like I think as coaches, you don't always, they wouldn't be my rules,
right? Right. Exactly.
But you have to evolve and evolve with the rules, and if not, you're taking steps behind. So we can all sit here and quote unquote bitch about it, or we can evolve and get better. Now, the one positive, I think the one real positive is I think college hockey. You've never seen this many first round draft picks in college hockey, and I think it's just only going to get better and better. I think this first wave of CHL kids, now what's happening is the kids back on their teams back home have been calling them all season saying, how is it? And the guys, here are saying it's awesome. I love it. And so now you're seeing the second wave of guys that really, that first wave of guys, they had to get out of their comfort zone. They had to do something that they were kind of, being told isn't the right thing to do. And now I think you see that second wave. And now I think it's just going to be a continuum now. It's going to be pretty much the thing, the natural progression.
I mean, it very quickly went from Caden Lindstrom to NHL teams essentially steering their draft pick to, I mean, you were one of them. And again, I'm actually curious how that all came about with Roger McQueen, because it was in August, I don't think. I mean, what was that conversation like?
Well, with Roger, it actually was as soon as the CHL rule flipped.
Right.
He was the guy that we reached out to. So with Roger, it was a process. It was like a 6-month process of educating him on NCAA, educating him on, what would be the pluses of coming to this level. And I think what happened is throughout the summer, more and more guys, McKenna, Lidstrom, like other guys started doing it. And that's what all of a sudden he's like, wait a second, maybe those guys are, talking, maybe what they're saying, I got to look into. And I think the more he looked into it, I think he got his eyes open to it.
Yeah. And to some extent, though, I assume Anaheim, which has usually been a pretty NCAA-friendly organization, I mean, they had to be comfortable with it, right? I mean, if Roger didn't get the nod from them, he probably wouldn't have done it at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And those guys have been great. Like to this day, those guys have been great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting how they'll, and obviously Martone is the same thing. So I don't know. It's just interesting to me how the NHL all of us, oh yeah, sure, go there. I don't know. But as far as I haven't talked to you since then, and by just to preface this, whenever we post about a pro like you guys with Simpson, we get outrage on social media, like, my God, what are you doing? Yeah. And I don't, you guys do what you have to do. It's the rules. It's totally fine. I'm not coming at it from that angle. Yeah. I'm just curious how it all came about.
Well, it came about when Philip's injury, and
obviously with that, but like, how do you even know? How is this guy in your radar? Like, how do
you start calling? You start calling contacts you have in the hockey world all the way across, and just seeing, basically, just saying, hey, we're down a goalie, we're on the hunt, and word gets out, and people get back to you on, this kid. This kid might be an option. You should check into him, or this kid. This is a kid I know is interested, or something like that.
Right.
And that basically we had to get word that Michael would be open to it. Then I called Carolina and spoke with them, and they were open to it. So Brett Peterson was awesome. So. We try to go through the right channels on everything.
And what was the kids thinking? Sorry to interrupt you. What was the kids thinking? Because, I mean, you had to tell them, I don't know what you told him about how much he may or may not.
Well, he's
play.
a 3.7 student, 3.7 student out of high school. He's a very good student. And what happened with Michael is that the rule changed. You know, like if the rule would have changed, well, he was still a major junior. He would have ended up in college.
Right.
And what happened was the rule changed after he had already left. So I think this was something that he always wanted to do. He was buddies with he played on, a championship team in major junior with one of the guys on our team.
Right.
And so that, I think they had stayed in touch also. So I think that probably helped us a little bit in the process also of, like when we first started talking to him, he's like, yeah, I've spoke to this guy. He's told me, he likes it down there. So I think that helped us also. But, there's a whole, when I was going through it, there's like these flip side. There's the side that, you and I talked about, East Coast, he signed pro.
Right.
There's another side of it to say that there's quarterbacks making $7 million. And this kid, it is making 1% of that in the East Coast, so it's like, what's a pro? Wait, what a second. What did this kid do wrong?
Yeah,
He's a 3.7 student. He wants to get an education.
Yeah, it's not like you're signing Vasilevsky over here. I know, no offense to the kid, but I mean, you're not. He's just getting an opportunity, like you said. He probably would have wanted anyway had the rule been different. So
I think he would have, and I think there's going to be. I still think there's probably going to be a handful of guys like him until that gap of players that really wanted to play NCAA, but it wasn't open to them yet until they age out. So I think there's probably going to be another year or two of some of these guys jumping in. And then I think all that stuff is mostly going to go away because I think those CHL guys that want to go to college are going to go directly from the CHL to college.
Yeah, I mean, I get the reaction on social media because it is a little bit weird. But on the list of things for me to worry about in college sports, that's like near the bottom. I gotta say, like it's like, because like you said, these kids may have gone there anyway if they had the opportunity. So it's to me the unlimited transfers is still the biggest.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you a lot on that. And then the other thing is, I think the NCAA, I think because of basketball and what's going on in basketball is following us.
Right.
Like, this has been going on with us for 6-8 months, and then all of a sudden now it's blowing up in basketball. I think because of the basketball thing, I think the NCAA eventually this summer is going to have to come out with some guard, just some keep us on the tracks here. Keep us on the train tracks of saying this is what we deem to be a pro.
Right.
This is what, and it sounds to me like what they're basically saying is if you sign an NHL deal, if you sign an NBA deal, you're a pro.
But yeah, otherwise it's all good. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, it would be nice if Congress did something, but I'm not counting on that. Because that would be really weird. Because the NCAA loses every lawsuit they get in, so it's like, I don't know. But do you feel more stressed about all this stuff these days, or is it just different? Or is it just or is your day-to-day just more stressful than it used to be?
I think what with the money being involved, there's probably more pressure to win. And I think we're losing sight of what we talked about earlier about growth in individuals and growth in humans and getting an education. There's a little bit of that as sometimes, I've been in this a while now. I'm on probably the backside of since the union days, but I often think of Jack Parker and I often think of how would Jack be handling this?
Well, I mean, just look at some of the guys who've retired in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to them directly about this, and most of them, I'm getting older, but this was the biggest reason. They just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So.
It's much harder to plan out year to year, and I don't know. I think that's really hard to plan out.
Right. Yeah. It's like everyone in the NHL were on a 1-year deal. I mean, it's like if, that would be tough too, right?
And you're constantly working on your culture. You're constantly building your culture and your identity and things because, there are a lot of new guys, coming through.
But it's not bothering you enough where you want to quit. It's you're still loving coaching.
No, I still love it. I do. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate, and to be doing what I'm doing, and I like Providence. I like this. I really like this group. I like the kids. So.
And if again, you don't have to give me specifics, but I mean, you guys are an opt-in school, right? And you don't have football, but you must have some kind of like. Do you get like a budget? How does that work?
Yeah, I think if you look, I think if you looked at probably I would say most schools in our league right now have a budget.
Right, like a rev share budget.
Whether they're admitting it or not, like there's, most schools in our league, basically have, kind of a budget. And
well, it may be $50,000 for some schools. It may be $1 million for another school. I don't know. So that's the difference.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone like in our league that's like that. But I think, I do think there's a little more going on at some of the schools than maybe they would lead on to, and that's okay. I mean, it's it's legal. We are the benefit of not having football.
Right.
So that is one big benefit, for our school, down that road, as far as that stuff goes.
Like Denver is.
I mean, like, you don't have football taking 21 of $22 million. And
right.
Then an AD
I mean, you also
right.
don't get their revenue either. So it's like
right.
maybe it's a trade-off. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But everyone I've talked to, again, without getting specifics on the dollar, just, I've talked about how they might do a little differently. I mean, like, for one school just sort of gives a blanket amount to everybody sort of by class, like just so there's no, there's no jealousies or anything like that. I mean, I don't know how it works for you or what your mindset is on that as far as.
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep things pretty even with the guys because fundamentally that's who I am. You know what I mean? Like fundamentally, I don't. One guy might be on a full scholarship, one guy might be on a half, but when it comes to like the practice and the game, like in your role, I feel like every role is really important.
Yep.
And I don't feel like one guy should be treated much different than another, because I think every role is important for you to win hockey games, so. Yeah,
of course, who knows what that's going to. That little lad, that might be a great idea in principle, but if a kid's,
we'll see.
If a kid's going to transfer and you want to keep him, it's.
Yeah, I mean that you got to for the guys that may sign. You're always kind of thinking about that, But I think retention for us is more important than recruitment,
Right.
And I think that is something that when you've invested in a player, you've invested time and energy and development, and into a player. And you really want that player. That's when, the NIL and the retention might come into play.
You don't want to have to teach a whole new guy all your culture and all that stuff. It's easier if you've already built that in, right? So
yeah. And those guys know your culture. They know your school. And that's one big advantage we have here also. Is the guys love the school here, so they generally love the size of the school. They love the feel of the school. And, that works out. Big force also.
Is there any hope in the pipeline or maybe a thought you have on what an ideal transfer rule would be, if that's even possible at this point?
I like Dabo. Dabo is really pushing hey, you get one. And then after that, you got to sit here. And I think that is way more fair than anything else. You know what I mean? Like
right.
We're not doing anyone any favors by having kids go to 3 and 4 schools. I mean, and it's just, it's not good. I mean, even, I guess I'm old school. I wish there'd be a penalty for transferring one time, but we'll never get back to that. But I think a second transfer should be, you should definitely be penalized, So.
I hear you. I mean, I battle with the students' rights people all the time. I mean, I'm about as open-minded as anyone, but there's a balance there that I don't know. Well, who am I though? So what difference does that make?
Well, the thing is, it's like no one's forcing this down someone's throat. Someone's saying, "Hey, here's an opportunity to come to a college, to get a scholarship,
right?
To play college hockey at this level, but these are the rules."
Yeah.
Like no one's saying you have to do this. You know what I mean? It's like it's still their choice.
I know, and I understand the abuses, right? Especially at football, basketball level. I mean, of course, there's always people who do this, that, and the other, but that doesn't mean you throw out the whole system. I mean, but again, we're preaching to the converted to each other here. So Before I let you go, I always, in my ongoing debate with David Carl over regionals, where are you on the home ice NCAA regionals at this point? I think it seems to be tilting in his favor by this point.
I think I'm 50-50, to be honest, because I've always been a regional site guy, but, I think David brings up some really good points, with it. And I'm open. Like I'm open. I'm really, I can debate it both ways. I love how David brings up we should have been playing in Friartown. I'm like, yeah, that'd have been nice, David, because, we'd have liked to have you on our ice. But I also understand the neutrality of it also, and I understand that there's a special feel to that tournament, and there's a special feel to going to those events. Also that, but I'm 100% with David on we have to get out of the carbon copy what we've been doing forever.
Right.
Just works. And I'm not even saying the regionals thing. I've been pushing our league for 3-4 years to get more games on weeknights. I've been pushing our league to open the door to different things, to promote our game. Like being at a school that also has basketball, I've really realized what works for basketball, and I realize why do we pigeon ourselves into some of these things? Because we've always done it. Like that doesn't make sense. We're playing a game at UNH on Friday. Then we come home to Vermont on Saturday.
Right.
Well, we're going to get home, after that game 1:30 in the morning. Then we got to play on Saturday. Like, is that good for our athletes? Like, is that because in the NHL they rarely do it, and here they have all the resources in the world. Why wouldn't we play Thursday, Saturday? Why wouldn't we play an afternoon game on 4:00 on Saturday or 2:00 on Saturday, and get it on TV? What we do to ourselves hurts marketing our game. When we all play the exact same time on a Friday night, we're not marketing our game.
Right.
Right. We should, I believe in Hockey East, we should always have a Thursday night game that leads into the weekend.
Big Ten's doing it now. So.
Yeah, because I gave Bob Moscow the idea.
Nice. Yeah.
But no, we should be having a Thursday night game that all of a sudden all those fan bases are saying, I'm excited about Providence coming to Maine on Friday. I'm going to pick up and watch UMass and Lowell on Thursday night. And then they're learning those players. And then all of a sudden there's probably more investment to get to the championship, the league champion, and they're following the league. And it's just, I agree with David. We have to take some creativity steps.
Well, I mean, people always mistake what I say that defending the status quo. And I try to tell them I'm not. There's a million things I would fix about the current regional situation without completely going to campuses, right? So I agree that there's plenty of things you can change.
Well, the regional thing, a couple things, the game times.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I mean, it doesn't matter if we would play a game on campus
right.
or at a regional site. If we're playing at 2:00 on a Thursday when our students are in school and people are at work, you're not getting people.
Exactly.
And then you want to charge a higher ticket rate. It's like.
Well, I got to tell you, the split days may be better for you guys as a team, but it also hurt attendance as well, going Thursday, Saturday, you know what I mean? So that kind of thing. So, but I think the coaches all wanted that, right? So catch-22 on that.
You're really, we go to Florida.
Right.
And it's I've been to Florida for 25 years now, and it's you go down there, you work for 3 or 4 days, you really get on the cusp of some good ideas, some good things, of maybe some progress, and then we all go back to our campus.
Right.
And it just fizzles. And it's it's so frustrating because then you go back down and you kind of have the same conversations. But
that's the sense I get, right? That nothing, great talk, but nothing comes out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to get change. But I do think David's pushing the needle on some things. It's good. I think there's some guys in the East pushing some needles, and I think hopefully that it's opening people's eyes, like our ESPN Plus numbers, which has been a huge thing for our league, but our ESPN Plus numbers have been our highest rated games have been weeknights or like single breakout games, like a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon. Like they haven't been Friday at 5:00 or Friday at 7:00,
Right.
So
yeah, I'm the one knucklehead here in Denver sitting there watching 6 games at once because I can't get to anything anymore. But anyway, no, I appreciate it. All good stuff. Like you said, unfortunately, we're not necessarily solving anything, but I appreciate your thoughts. One last thing on your team. I mean, just going forward back to that to wrap things up. Is there stuff you'd still feel like you guys need to work on most?
Our power play's got to get a lot better. Yeah, we're still growing, and that's the exciting thing right now is we're still growing. Now we've got some confidence, we've got some swagger, which I'm happy. I'm really happy for the guys, but there's still a lot that we can grow, and that's when you have a young team like this with no seniors, that's the exciting part is they can keep growing and growing and growing, throughout a year. So.
And Jack Parsons playing with a little chip on his shoulder, maybe. That's been good for you.
Yeah, and he's got a little swagger, and I think it's helped our group. His swagger has kind of helped our group. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, do you think you'll? I don't know. It's hard to say, probably, but you try to get Simpson into a game here, or do you think that's?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just to reward him, I guess, or make him feel good about it.
These next couple weekends, I mean, we had tough travel, so he's coming back from an injury also.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that we've been kind of working him back. He gets healthy and he gets up to speed. He definitely will be looking at time.
Now we'll go from one end of town in Providence to the other end of town, where Brown University will be changing head coaches, and our reporter Josh Sagan caught up with current head coach Brendan Winnett after a recent game and talked to him about the transition. He's taking a leave of absence for family reasons, which understandably did not want to specify at this time, and will be coming back after that in an administrative role and stepping down as head coach. We talked to him about a lot of the same topics that we just talked about with Nate Leaman. So check it out.
We have a young team, right? Like we lost. I mean, when a team turns over, all these guys in Scott and Zacher and Koff, who signs with Buffalo, and Ryan Botterill, like those are guys that should all be here. Those guys leave right when they're going to be juniors, right when they're going to be like those veteran leaders, those the presence on the ice, the guys that carry the standard and the culture, and it's almost like you have to restart again, right? Like because you got new guys and you got some veterans like St. Louis and Pino and some guys that have been through some of the battles, but by and large there's a lot of new faces, and for us, we're young. Young is not an excuse, but we've had a lot of growing pains. We really have, and it's not easy to just instantly think you're going to replace all these guys. You just it's hard. So the one thing I always want with my teams is no matter what, I just want them to play hard. And they do. It doesn't always look great. It's not always perfect, obviously. But again, the message is just to keep battling, hone some things up, and try and be at our best when the puck's dropped in March.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the news of the other day, and leaving the program. We don't need to get into any reasons or anything, but it's been a long year. I'm doing it for reasons for family reasons. There's it's not this has always been where I've wanted to be. This has always been my home. Have we always been great in terms of seasons? No, we've been really inconsistent, and but I do take a lot of pride in sitting here. I do take a lot of pride. Every time we step on the ice, I try and do my best. And again, I leave with my head held high. I've been here 17 years. You don't last 17 years at a place if you're not doing something right. So the positive is I still get to stay here. I'm going to be in an administrative role, in an athletic director's role. I mean, that's kind of being defined as how that'll look. But once I come back from this medical leave, it'll be a situation where I still have my home. It'll just be a different look. And what I'm trying to do is, whoever comes here next as a head coach, like I just want to make sure that they're set up, to have some type of success. And make sure that the pieces are still here. The young guys are here. The recruiting class is a pretty good class. Those guys show up, Brown will be fine. I've never thought, for me, I just try to guide the ship the right way. And again, sometimes it looks great, sometimes it doesn't. But like over the years, we've been in 3 Final Fours, we've been in a championship game. We've had teams that have been very, very good. We have teams that have peaked down the stretch. We've had teams throughout the years that have been really, really hard to play against in the playoffs and made good strides. I will say with the landscape, the NCAA landscape, it becomes harder and harder. There's just there's a lot that goes into this, and from my perspective, I'm just appreciative that I've had the chance to be here for 17.
Yeah, and obviously, you talk about the home here at Brown, obviously going into a new role. How scary is that as somebody who's been a hockey coach for all of his life?
It's scary, but I'm also I'm also excited. Like it's something new. It's I know I'm going to add value to that side of it because I was sitting behind a bench, for 17 years. More than that, right? I was at Dartmouth and Colby and here prior. And so, you'd like to think, I have some value to add on that side of it to just maybe reiterate kind of what we go through as coaches, And again, that role will be defined as we move forward. But I hope it evolves, and I hope I have the opportunity to be here for another 17 years, and just in a different realm. This is the first new thing I've done. I was a coach when I graduated, and I go out at 55 years old as a coach. And I was lucky enough. I was a young head coach here. I kind of learned along the way, and I've been a little more introspective, I think, the last few games where you kind of understand that you won't be standing here in a couple of weeks. You won't be standing on the bench next year. And I'm just trying to appreciate the end of it. So
I personally remember the 2013. Was it 2013 the final, the ECAC final? That was a good.
We had some good runs, man. We had some good players. Obviously, we developed pros. We had some good runs, those runs, I'll always remember those. But more than anything, I'll remember the opportunity to hopefully be a positive impact on hundreds of players that have come through. There's been 17 graduating classes that have gone through that have, played hockey under my guidance and leadership. So, from my perspective, I look at that as hopefully a legacy that, I look back on fondly, but hopefully the guys that played here do too, so.
And how taxing the last, obviously you talked about a little bit about the changes in the landscape here. How kind of taxing has it been, to kind of work through it?
It's hard because it's ever changing. Some of the stuff that other teams can do, the Ivies don't, and they're not going to. So so it's a little bit of a battle, and that's not to make excuses, but the landscape is ever changing. Amateur is a farce. It's not amateurs hockey anymore. It's not amateur athletics. It's just not. It's minor pro sports. It's professional sports. It's people are getting paid. You can go anywhere you want, and I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's good that the loyalty, the beauty of going to a school for 4 years, and the beauty of graduating with your class, the beauty is that the people you meet and the connections you make, and if you don't feel that sense of home, if you're just a hired gun, if you move from place to place to place, well, do those places mean
what Brown means to me, or what a college would mean to somebody else, and they've experienced everything that college has that college has to offer. Like everybody seems to be in a rush too. Everybody's in a rush. Like, what's the next best thing? Where am I going? Where should I? Their foot's always out the door, and I personally don't like that. I get frustrated. I think it's very hard. In a very hard environment for me, because I'm old school, and I appreciate the days that not too long ago where you could develop a team, you could develop that chemistry, you could develop that camaraderie, you could have a culture, you could instill the right values in these kids. And again, it's just that guys are just 1 foot out the door, and I'm not talking about my guys in general, but they're just looking for the next best thing. Sometimes the grass isn't greener. So I know what Brown means. I mean, you graduate from here, the connections you make, the doors that are open for you are second to none. If you leave here and you haven't graduated and you transfer, you're not a Brown graduate. You didn't finish it. I treat my guys as family. I'm here. Whenever they need me, I'm here for them. Okay, but like the guys that leave, I don't think it's well thought out, quite honestly.
Because you've been a big part of this league for 17 as long as I've been here.
Like right out, because I was a student athlete.
Yeah.
So I played in the first 2 championships, Final Fours as a player in Lake Placid. Lost in a championship game there to a really good Clarkson team back in the day, in one year. But we knocked out Harvard, who was number 1. I still remember it like it was yesterday. That was a semi, and then lost to Clarkson. And then the next year we made it back. One of my senior year, we knocked out a Vermont team here with freshmen that were pretty good. A guy named Marty St. Louis, Eric Perron. But we knocked that team out. To make it up to Lake Placid, and I'll always remember that. And then I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be a volunteer for 2 years here with Coach Godet, and progressed up to Colby College with Jimmy Tortorella, and had a great experience there, and kind of figured out my craft a little bit, and came back. I worked for Roger Grillo for a year. I don't even know if people know that. He also was a golf coach here, which I don't even know how to golf, but that was part of the job. At the time, as an assistant, that was part of the job. Like, you got to be the golf coach too. A Division I golf coach that didn't know how to golf. That's what I was. So, a few extra bucks is basically what it was. And then I was lucky enough. I was with Bob for obviously some great years up at Dartmouth and some really good teams, and appreciated my time up there. And then I had the chance to come back to my alma mater, and so I've been in the league for a long time. And again, I'm blessed. I mean, I'm lucky that I got to coach as long as I have. It doesn't always happen that way. And I'm lucky that I'm able to go out, kind of on my own terms. And I'm really grateful that the school sees value in the opportunity for me to add something as an administrator.
Get hurt in a game? We tough it out. Feel exhausted? We push on. Feeling down? We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But there are times when bootstraps aren't enough. When stress gets to us and we need to talk to someone about what we're really going through. So we're going to reach out, because sometimes mental health is not a one-person job. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the College Hockey News Insiders podcast. That was Providence coach Nate Leaman, and some from Brown coach Brendan Whittet, who is announced last week that he would be stepping down for personal reasons in a couple of weeks. Class act, tough, at Brown. Heard both of them kind of talking about the same thing. For Brown, it's tough. Guys come and go now because of some of the better players, at least most of them, transfer out. And then you got to start over again. And I suppose some people could just say, "Oh, these coaches are whining." I don't really think that's the case. I mean, they're still doing the best they can, and they're adapting. But it's completely fair and accurate. I mean, Nate Leaman was saying the same thing. The difference is that he can bring in Roger McQueen, and Brown can't do that. So, if you lose guys and guys go in and out, at least, you can replace them with high-end players. But they're both similar, and everybody is, in the fact that, lamenting the lack of ability to build a team over 4 years and guys get better and better. And, we all know the reasons why all this came to be, but it doesn't mean that we have to like it. Many coaches have decided to retire rather than deal with it. And but coaches like Nate Leaman, David Carl, guys we've talked to, Pat Ferschweiler, they just adapt, and it is what it is. But I do think that even those guys who are adapting well and they're doing a great job, non-Big Ten schools, I even think for them they also lament the way it was, so to speak. I always say this. I hate to sound like an old man who just can't handle change. I mean, it's not that, right? I mean, if you let's say college sports started today, and you had to pick between column A and column B, and column A was, you bring a player in, you keep them for 4 years, you build over time, and they become better and better, and they get all the school camaraderie and all that goes along with it. Or column B, which is where you stay a year or two, you come and go, you change teams like your underwear. And it's still hockey, it's still coaching, and it's still hockey. But if you had to pick one, forget that one was the way it used to be and one is the way it is today. I mean, I would still pick column A. I think almost everybody would. And it's not because, they're trying to make these guys slaves and all the nonsense you hear, I just genuinely think it's a better way of being part of a team. But that's just not the. I mean, Nate Leaman spoke about it perfectly when we talked to him. He's like, he said that the only people thinking team nowadays are the coaches. Like everyone else that a player is surrounded by, parents, agents, they're all thinking what's best for him, which is their job, right?
100%, yeah.
But and again, it used to be that the kids didn't have a choice. And you might say, well, that's bad too. And maybe it is. But it's no longer, I don't know. You go on because I have more to say, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned this a week or two ago. I was having a conversation with a coach who said, it's and this is a guy who's been around a while, and he said, it's way different now. When I first got into this, I'm paraphrasing, but the quote was essentially, when I first got into this game, you were recruiting to build a program, and you would build your program with guys that you would bring in, and you knew they were going to be there for 4 years, and you could build around them. So you could bring in, if you were a new coach, you could bring in a 12-player freshman class and know, okay, that's my pillar. That's what I'm going to build around over the next 3 years. Now, like that's gone. You can't do that anymore. Some schools can, because some schools are going to have an easier time retaining their players than others. But a lot of schools, you can't do that. You almost need to build just for next year's team. Like, you're not building a program as much as you're building a team, is essentially what this coach said. And you're building your team year to year, because there's no guarantee that who you bring in as a freshman is going to be back for their sophomore year. So, all these coaches, especially the new ones now, you see them use the portal in part because they have to. Like, 10 years ago, you'd see a new coach get hired, and there'd be a lot of roster turnover, and there might be 15 new freshmen that come in the following year. Well, that doesn't really, I don't know that that's going to work now. I mean, we'll see, because Miami just did it, right? They had a huge freshman class. We'll see how many of those guys they're able to retain. But that's the concern. It's like, you could bring in that 15-player freshman class and in a year lose a quarter of them or a third of them. Yeah. You have no idea. And then what? So you're really building year to year. You're no longer really planning and trying to build something out over a 4-year period. It's all just with everybody. It's what gives me my best team next year, because that's all you can really count on.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the lineage of all of this, right? I mean, the NCAA loses every lawsuit, and so it's almost like, they hadn't had much choice. But I remember back, I might be misremembering here some of the details, but they changed some of the transfer rules early on, almost as an appeasement to players because of the money stuff and how much that was growing as a dissatisfaction. Like, oh, look at all this money in college sports. We're not getting any of it. So I feel like it was changed as an appeasement, not so much because they had to at that time. And now that all the money is being shared, maybe they didn't have to do that. They just should have shared the money from the get-go. Then they wouldn't be in the transfer mess. Because I think, as we were just talking about with Nate Leaman, like, to me, that is the biggest issue, more so than the money, is the transfer stuff. And I'll equate it to what I always say about the regional / campus stuff. Because, I get hate mail about the NCAA regional issue, and people ridicule me. Woden loves the small crowd. I've said a bazillion times that the status quo on NCAA regionals is not great either. I just believe that those things can be fixed without throwing out it entirely. And I would say the same thing. There are obviously abuses, especially in the bigger sports, with the college hockey, with the college sports system. But they basically threw it out entirely instead of fixing it.
Yeah.
To the point where it's dangerously close to not being college sports anymore. I mean, even Brendan Winnett said it's not amateur sports anymore. It's pro. It is pro. And in a sense, that's true. Now, there is some, again, just look at the Penn State thing. That's why, I brought this up earlier, right? That's still school spirit, connection to your school, the band playing, everything amazing. And there's still a lot of that, thankfully, in college sports. But a lot also of what makes, like, look, you love watching the NHL. I love watching the NHL, right? So hockey's hockey. I love watching the games now. Like Friday, Saturday night, I'm riveted to see what's going to go on, in the Big Ten, the ECAC, everywhere, to see how it's all going to play out, because it's hockey, and we love hockey. But the extra level of why I can speak for myself, love college sports is the part that's disappearing. And that, to me, is the problem, right? I mean, it's an extra level. We always thought like we had a best kept secret that college hockey had all, this traditions and everything else that goes along with college sports, and that's what made it special. So if it's not, then it's really just the same as everything else, and it's the NHL, and which is fine, but it's still great hockey, right? The quality of play is tremendous, although the first couple of months is haphazard all the time because of all the turnover. But the amount of quality players in college hockey has never been better, and so you can't argue with that. But that extra specialness, if that just completely disappears, then, maybe I should just retire at that point. That'd be, a lot of people might like that.
Well, it's funny because, like, I think the NCAA wants to get that under control too.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Baker's talked about it. He was at the NCAA convention earlier in the month, and he basically said, if I remember correctly, he's okay with a player being able to transfer once without penalty. You get to a school, you don't like the school, you whatever. It could be anything. You don't like the coach, you don't like the team, you don't like your major, you don't like the environment. It's just not a fit for you. Like, students transfer for reasons other than sports all the time, non-athletes. So his point was basically, everybody should have that opportunity, but it shouldn't be yearly free agency. Like, I think he's of the mind of, if somebody wants to transfer once, that's okay. Anything after that, there probably should be some sort of penalty to it, because it's not supposed to be free agency where you just go to a different place every year based upon what your offer is. That's not what it's supposed to be. So I kind of agree. Like, I don't like the idea of the players getting locked in for 4 years. And I think, everybody can make a mistake in recruiting. We talk about it all the time. Some of these guys are committing at 16 years old. You don't really know what you want. You have no idea. And let's face it, like, in a recruiting trip, you're getting sold the best version of the school, just like you are when you show up for an open house. If you're a regular high school senior that's looking at the school for the first time, you may get there that September and go, oh boy, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and decide you want to try something different. That's fine. And he even made the point, I think Charlie Baker did, of, if a player should be allowed a one-time transfer with some extenuating circumstances. Like, if the coach leaves or gets fired, you should have the ability to transfer a second time if you want to. So that seems fair to me. And it seems fair to everybody, to me. Because, like, at some point, not that anybody's crying for the coaches, but at some point, these guys need to be able to do some sort of roster planning. Like, you have no idea. There's coaches right now in February that have no idea what their roster is going to look like next year because they have no idea who's leaving. They have no idea who's transferring.
Well,
I just don't know how you operate in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to throw cold water on what you're saying because I definitely agree with that, but I'm not sure, like, even doing that would help. I mean, because how many players really have transferred twice? I mean, can we count on one hand? How many are there right now? Like maybe 10? I don't know. In college hockey. So it's even that first one that's also a problem, right? And so if you have that rule where you're allowed to do it once, then you're not really solving anything. But I'd
be curious. I feel like there's a lot of multi transfers. I don't know how many though.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to count up, but I just I know there's a couple prominent ones.
There's a couple prominent ones, but then there's even some, like, you look at some of these rosters and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's on his third school.
Yeah, no, there are a few. I mean, so the other problem though is I don't know if you can put the genie back in the bottle because I could just see it now. Like, if you tried again, I would love to see some sort of making it a little harder to transfer even that first time. But I could just see it now, like a kid at, Niagara. They do an unbelievable job recruiting and developing this kid. He's a freshman or a sophomore, and all of a sudden Michigan wants him. And Michigan's going to give him $100,000. I could just see that lawsuit lasting about 5 minutes. Like, what do you mean? You're not going to let me get the $100,000 by going to a different school? I have to stay here?
That's where they're, not to get into the weeds here, but that's where they are. The NCAA is begging for congressional help.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
the only way they're going to be able to enforce anything.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, in the old rules, you could still get the $100,000. You just have to wait a year. So, I mean, if that's your motivation, then go for it. So, but again, I could see them losing that lawsuit in 5 minutes. So you're right. I mean, congressional, but that's like, trying to,
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's like asking for penguins to fly,
I wish you good luck, Mr. Baker.
Well, we can hope, but they have a few other problems to solve in Congress at the moment first. Anyway, so again, we just sit here and lament it every week, but I mean, hopefully trying to, put it into some sort of perspective for people who always listen, stop complaining about it, and spend half the show talking about the games. And like I said, I loved watching the games. I am riveted to these games. I just, lament the loss of something which made it extra special. And it's funny because I was thinking about this, right? Like, Gavin McKenna said that, and he's 100% right. You don't have this in Canada, Major Junior. This is why he went to Penn State, and it's tremendous. But, like, for all the guys out there who are going to be one and done or transferred to another school, like, are they going to feel that way in 20 years, the way guys do now?
Yeah.
Last year at the Frozen Four, when Western Michigan, I mean, there's a bunch of coaches around college hockey who were like, Western Michigan alums, right? And them and their friends and other guys who aren't coached necessarily. I mean, you saw this like connection where they were just overjoyed, right? 30 years later. And is that going to be the same?
Derek Schooley was wearing his jersey around,
right?
I saw Derek Schooley was wearing his jersey he told me the story about. He was telling you as well. I think his parents found it at their house or something right before that weekend. So he was wearing his jersey around all weekend. Brent Brecky was wearing like his old varsity jacket, like Letterman jacket.
I know. And think about it though, like, what do we always say when there's a coaching opening, right? Is it going to be an alum? We always talk about that. And we always say how, like, a guy who is, and it's not universal, right? There's plenty of good coaches who are not at their alma mater. But we always say there's an extra special, like, sort of attachment to that and with the passion they bring to it, of their school in those cases. And just think about, like, who are going to be the coaches 20 years from now that are head coaches? I mean, that may no longer be a thing, I don't know. We'll find out in 20 years if we're lucky enough to be here. That's our lament for the day, and that's the way it is on February 3rd, 2026, in this beloved land of ours. All right, well, before we get out of here, quickly, games of the week.
Michigan State, Michigan.
Well, that is, I mean, certainly was going to get respect to that. Now, they're playing one of those games in Detroit. That's on Saturday. Yeah. So every year one of those teams gives up a home game. They alternate, right, and play there. So obviously that's huge. You got the BU-BC Beanpot final. So you're going to have those two giant rivalries going at it this weekend. The Beanpot obviously being on Monday. And St. Thomas at Bowling Green is a big one.
Even Augustana and Michigan Tech in the CCHN.
Yes, indeed. That's it for the really big games. You've got CC and Denver, another rivalry weekend there. Obviously, they're quite separated in the standings, but still, it's always a big deal. And as we mentioned before, Western Michigan and Miami. North Dakota, Duluth also. I mean, Duluth's been kind of hitting a speed bump here.
Yep.
They're still pretty good shape in the MPI, but Adam Guyan goes to the Olympics now. I believe he's gone for this weekend.
That was the thought. I haven't seen any reporting on that officially, but I know when he made the team, there was a thought. I think Brad Schlossman said he believed he would be gone for that weekend.
Yeah.
Or this weekend. It makes sense because the tournament starts next week.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get there at some point. Going to Italy for the Olympics, for Slovakia. So, I mean, that's a huge weekend for Duluth at home. Last weekend they lose to Denver twice. They've lost 4 in a row. 2 of them are in overtime, though, and they're all by 1 goal. So I didn't think they were playing that badly. I think they're missing some grit, I would say, which was sort of a trademark of the championship Duluth teams. I mean, his team's very talented, but we'll see. I mean, Guyan did not play great on Friday. He played really good on Saturday. He's been good for the most part. So obviously they will miss him. The only other guy with minutes this year is Ethan Dahlmeyer, who was a Miami transfer, as a matter of fact. He's appeared in 3 games. And so we'll see how he does. That could be dicey. It could get dicey for Duluth in a hurry, the way it is for Wisconsin. So, all right, I think that sums it up. What else you got? Nothing? Look, you're going to be watching damn Super Bowl on Sunday, so I can't even. More than likely I'll carve out some time for that.
The only other thing that we should mention, and I just found, this is going to be a spoiler alert. You're going to read about this a little bit more in this week in college hockey on Thursday. Manchester not going to be in the next round of regional bids.
Boom. Well, there's been a lot of complaints about them in recent years.
Yeah, UNH did not bid to host in Manchester.
Oh, well, maybe they saw the handwriting on the wall, or maybe they just don't want to do it anymore.
So for the next cycle anyway, I would imagine we'll hear about that in the spring, right? It's got to be coming up.
I guess. Well, I mean, they're planned out through 28, right? So
through 28. I thought they said last year at the Frozen Four that by this spring we'd probably hear something about the next round, but yeah, because they've got the Frozen Four planned through 28, so they got 2 more on the books right now.
Well, them being out of the regional business will make some people happy, but you don't know where it will be instead. So
no, I mean, look at 28. I was looking at 28 yesterday. Again, I don't think any of the Western people are going to cry for me here, but the close. I mean, I'm in New England. The closest regional in 2028, I think, is Rochester, New York.
There you go.
So,
well, yeah, no one's going to cry, that's for sure.
All those New England teams are going to have to travel in 2028. We'll see if they change their mind.
All right. Well, don't enjoy the Super Bowl, I hope. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast. To submit your listener questions, please send them to @CHN News on X. And for the best college hockey content around, including features, the CHN Team of the Week, stats, rankings, and so much more, visit us at collegehockeynews.com. Until next time, we hope you enjoy all of this week's great on-ice action, and we'll be back to break it down on our next edition. For Adam Woden and Mike McMahon, this has been the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.